The one thing I really liked about this film, and I think this may have a lot to do with the directors because of their pedigree, is this feels like a very classic Disney animation story from like sort of the golden age, but it also has a lot of more modern tone to it.
Sure.
So as someone who helped kind of bring that to life, does the film resonate with you in the same way? Do you feel it has that same sort of tone to it, or how do you view the film?
It's definitely a hero's journey. We have, somebody who is not in a position they want to be in. They're pulled outside of their environment by something, and they want that outside nourishment, I guess, or there's something missing in their life. And I would say that's, going back to Joseph Campbell and, all of that mythology of storytelling, I would say that those elements are definitely in a lot of our classic hero tales. I really like that the relationship between Moana and the water and how it's constantly beckoning her for some reason, and you don't find out until a while into the movie, and that propels her into her journey. You can definitely feel that being thrust into this adventure to save her island. I'm totally. I have a 7-year-old daughter, and to have a female protagonist who kicks butt and is making things happen instead of things happening to her. I love being a part of anything like that. So
I'm glad you mentioned the water. I was actually at D23 the first time footage was shown of Moana, and my wife and I were both just floored by how good it looked. And that was 2 years ago, or a year ago, I guess, a little over a year ago. So to see how far it's come, even just since that early concept footage to now, it's mind blowing how amazing. Like, it seems like every time you guys do something, there's one new thing that's really like, this is the next big technological advancement, and this is the water, and it looks amazing.
Thank you. Our effects team had their work cut out for them on this movie. We had, yes, it looks beautiful, and we wanted it to be believable. Not necessarily realistic, but it definitely, I think water might be the hardest thing to try and animate, or in the computer at least. And they had a boat that was sailing on the waves constantly and splashing, and they had wind that affected sails and hair that was sometimes wet, sometimes dry. It was an effects smorgasbord for this movie, and I want to say that department knocked it out of the park. And I think it really makes it's very, very much inspired by the beauty of the Pacific Islands. Whenever there's a sequence where somebody jumps off of their canoe into the waves on the beach, and every time that happens, I can smell the ocean and I can feel the heat. Oh, it's just, it just takes me right there, right then. So
you were mentioning the water. How much of that is like manually animated and how much is procedural? Because I know a lot of work, like even special software is made for the hair and everything.
Yeah. As far as animating the character of the water, we had like that. I don't know, its head.
It's like the abyss tentacle, right?
Exactly.
Something in the abyss.
Yeah. We had a rough representation of that we could manipulate and give character to. But as far as how that blended into the simulation of just the generic, I don't even know the terms for it, because we leave all that to the wizards that we lock in the basement to research how to make this so beautiful. But we were were able to indicate either through 2D markovers, drawovers, what we wanted the water to do, and then our effects team would try to accommodate that. I don't know what they used to make water do what they did, but I admire those guys so much.
So you joined Disney back in about 96?
Yes.
Right? And that's pretty much like
the 1900s.
Yeah, it's way back then. That was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much the transition when computer animation was becoming, I guess, almost more mainstream. Yeah. Toy Story had just come out the year before, and a lot of people thought it was going to fail.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I mean, is your background in like hand traditional animation, or did you just start out ground level on computer animation?
I entered the workplace at a time when desktop I'm getting over a cold, so I'm doing a little Peter Brady every once in a while. When desktop publishing was booming, so Adobe started coming out with Illustrator and Photoshop and all this word processing stuff, and I became literate in the computer and how to do art and illustration in the computer. I've always had an art background and a performance background, and was computer literate, and animation seemed to be kind of the perfect blend of all those things for me at that time. I got hired on Dinosaur, and that was our first, I think it's our first fully CG lead character, or, that was when all of our characters were CG. And it was a time of learning, for sure. And it was the beginning of our digital studio. At that point, we were doing Treasure Planet, which had a character that was a hybrid. Silver had a traditional animated body with a CG arm and leg and eye. And we were already trying to, wrangle this technology into a performance. And I think that's one of our strengths, is that we are constantly focused on performance rather than the tools. We're trying to harness the tools and make them do art. Because computers, I don't know if you know this, but they're trying to do the worst animation you can,
right?
And you're constantly fighting to get this character to look natural, or to look believable, I should say. And it was a long road from Dinosaur to Moana. But I think we've come up with an arrangement, a structure where there's this huge collaboration between the animators, the engineers who rig the puppet, basically, and the character designers and the modelers. Instead of, all right, here's the model, put a rig in it, okay, here it is, animate it. We've come up with this collaboration of, I'm going to animate it, and it breaks here and doesn't look the way it needs to here, and the traditional animators will draw over it and say, no, the arm, when it bends, it needs to do this, and then all of those notes will go into this collaboration, and we're able to create the performance that you've seen in Moana. So,
speaking of being focused on performance, I mean, you've got a great voice cast here, but the standout for me was Dwayne Johnson as Maui. When you guys are building these characters and working on these animations, do you reference any footage of the voice talents? Because I noticed there was like the eyebrow in one scene, which is a very iconic, Dwayne Johnson thing. So, like, how much of that stuff did you guys go back and look at when you're creating these characters?
It really depends on if when you're recording your voice, you're doing a different performance than acting on camera, and so sometimes the talent will put all their performance into their voice, and you don't see any of it in their body. Other actors will give us so much in the booth that recording it really informs the character. I would say on Judy Hopps, we really leveraged a lot of reference for her character. And I love watching Alan Tudyk because not only will he give a great performance with his face, his alternate lines go on for days, and I'm just sitting there crying, listening to this and watching this session, and people are like, "What are you watching on?" It's just so great. Dwayne Johnson, he's so charming, and he knows it, but he's so humble, and he's just so endearing, and he gave us so much in his performance that we couldn't help but ooze into our. We watched a lot of Dwayne Johnson movies and looked for mannerisms that fit Maui, because if you take too many mannerisms that from the actor that don't transfer to the character, it's not gonna ring true. So the eyebrow was definitely something that fit Maui's character, and we had so much fun with. Yeah, he was great.
I always feel like he can't possibly be that charming in real life.
I know, and yet everybody that you talk to says, that's the guy, that's him. It was so...
He's the most suave. I never was a big fan. I was like that WWE guy. First time I met him, I was like, he's so sophisticated, he's funny,
Yeah. And he's just so giving and charitable, and no wonder everybody wants to work with him and is working with him now in Hollywood. I can't wait to meet him.
Last question.
Ooh, last one.
I'm
going to cram it together.
Okay.
Just playing off of yours real quick. So you're the character animator, and you work specifically on Maui. Did you animate the peck torquing?
I was not... At Disney, we get to animate every character in every shot that we're issued. So we're not going with the traditional model where you worked on one character throughout the entire film. So I got to animate most of the characters.